So, I was recently travelling down the Cambrian coastline in Wales, heading home after a holiday, which was the perfect opportunity to do something I've been wanting to do for a while. If you didn't know, at Northampton station there is a display called All Aboard to Northampton, which is aiming to collect a ticket from every station in the UK to Northampton. Initially started by a staff member at the station who just started collecting used tickets from the barriers. There's still many missing, particularly on rural Scottish and Welsh lines like the Cambrian coast. So after previously checking with LNWR, I chose to get off at Barmouth station, walk across the spectacular Barmouth Bridge, which had great views of the bay and sea, including just about be able to see the Fairborn Railway, to Morfa Mawddach station. I think I'm pronouncing that right now. Today this is just a small quest stop, but the site is also the junction for a disused line all the way to Ruabon near Wrexham. One part of this line is now the Baddock Lake Railway, and another part is the Llangollen Railway, but the rest in between is abandoned. I quite like this station for how in the middle of nowhere it is, but there was still plenty of walks around as it was a lovely day. I got out my ticket to take photos proving the journey was actually taken, although I did actually buy this ticket the week before at Oxford, both because I got a return so I could get there in the first place, and because it needs to be a proper card-shaped ticket rather than the receipt tickets you get from guards on the trains in Wales. The line only gets a service every 2 hours, but I intentionally timed it well, so after a short wait the next southbound train arrived and I made my intent clear for it to stop, and I got on. Heading down I saw many more of the spectacular views along this part of the line, and also call at some interesting stations, like Dovey Junction, which can be regarded as the most isolated station in the country. At Machynlleth the train joins up with a service from Aberystwyth, then heads towards England, pulling into then reversing at Shrewsbury before speeding much faster, skipping some stops now to Birmingham, including New Street and International. I had a brief break at Birr International where I got some dinner, and it also got dark. Then I took the next LNWR train to Northampton. For me the journey took about 6 hours, however if I hadn't made a stop and caught this train at New Street which left after the Transport for Wales one arrived but before it left, the journey can just take 4.5 hours. I personally think Northampton station has a pretty rubbish service given the town's size, although it is technically the second largest town that's not a city behind Reading. It mostly gets just 2 trains an hour, which form a very slow London to Birmingham service. It's reasonably fast to London but calls at the stations between Milton Keynes, Northampton, Coventry and Birmingham International, usually also waiting a while at Northampton. Given that it's on the West Coast main line, it feels like it should get more intercity services, but I guess due to the layout and capacity that can't happen at the moment. While it does have way more platforms than it knows what to do with, I do quite like the design of the station. I did find it a bit odd though that direct trains to Birmingham International was written on all the name boards, especially as that's ironically where I'd just come from. So I went upstairs to find the display board. This was my first time actually seeing it in person, and found that the spot for my ticket was there. It would have sucked if I'd come all this way for it to now have been completed by someone else, although the chances were very low. I handed my ticket into the gateline staff, who couldn't put it in straight away but I'm sure it's in there now, then spent a while analysing the board and the missing stations. For example, 12 out of the 33 stations are still missing on the Cambrian coastline, as well as many more, some that to be expected, some less so. Of particular interest to me was that all 4 parliamentary stations served by the Finstock Flyer were missing, so I may return with one of them at some point. Marked in greens are tickets that are impossible to get. For example, you can only buy a ticket to Birmingham stations and not New Street specifically. In the bottom right there are also spots for new, under construction and predicted stations. However, I noticed the entry for the new Northumberland Park has been wrongly filled in with a second ticket from the old station in London rather than the new one which recently opened in Northumberland, which is annoying. Anyway, this is a really cool project. I'm glad I could finally contribute and submit something that should be displayed forever. I'm sure I'll make a return to it in the future. And thanks for watching.